Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmanitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Vidaha Katara Ajuhava Puteti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivanarottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptascha Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're going to continue hearing the beautiful Chaitanya Bhagavat, the story of Jagai and Madhai and their deliverance through the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Vavishta, Om Vishnu Padasta Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Vavishta, Om Vishnu Padasta Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So, yesterday, because we had had a gap in our Chaitanya Bhagavat, and somehow or other the scrolling got messed up, so we repeated some verses that we'd heard before, but they were very powerful, kind of delineating the nature of the sinful activity of Jagai and Madhai. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada describing, listing all of these different kinds of things which are considered quite sinful in real culture, Vedic culture. And hearing them and comparing with modern conditions, you realize, oh my goodness, how far we have come from that standard. Anyway, now they're looking at these two who are complete reprobates, who have completely abandoned all connection with Vedic society. And Eteka Chintiya Prabhu Haridasa Prati Bale Haridasa Deka Donhara Durgati. After contemplating in this way, the Lord said to Haridas, "Oh Haridas, look at their miserable condition. Brahmana hoya hena dushta vyavahar edon hara jamagare nahika nishtar." Although they are Brahmanas, their behavior is most abominable. These two will not be able to avoid the punishment of Jamaraj. Purport by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. When a human being gives up sinful activities and accumulates piety, then he is born in a high-class Brahmana family. The identification of a Brahmana is the highest identification in this world. A Brahmana is respected by all, and his example should be followed by everyone. Right. The definition of Brahmana that's authentic in Vedic culture, by any standard today, would be so rare and considered the topmost saint. Even people that call themselves Brahmanas nowadays, and even people that call themselves saints and gurus, are so far from this standard. So far. But they were completely sense-controlled, very detached, very learned, dedicated to the upliftment, welfare of society in every way. And thus they were respected by all, and their example was for everyone to follow. He goes on to say, Due to their sinful propensities, living entities feel proud to identify with castes other than Brahmanas, but there cannot be any fault in identifying oneself as a real Brahmana. And the thing is, the Brahmana caste has become so degraded in the Kali Yuga that actually people feel disinclined towards them. They just exploited their position based on birth, very much like aristocracy did, right? In the Kali Yuga, what happened was that Brahmanas fell from their position, and so the kings took over. They became the topmost and most respected. And that held up for a long time, even in Western European society. To be a king or an aristocrat by birth, you're considered high class, right? But even then, they began to, well, of course, the whole time they were misusing their position, but the Vaishya class became prominent. And by the time, at least in European history, by the 1200s, the noble class began to erode the power of the king, so-called noble class. And with the rise of commerce and economic development, 1500s, merchants became the real controllers, and then bankers, because they were the ones that funded what the kings wanted to do, fighting and warring and building castles and everything like that. So then the merchant class became prominent. And that has continued to the current day. The thing that's fighting against the prominence of the merchant class is the Shudra class, the workers, and that's manifested in communism, right? The putting one class against the other, appealing to the fact that the common laborers are being exploited by the merchant class, creating class envy, and then, workers of the world unite, arise, you have nothing to lose but your chains. But that never happens. The worker class is always exploited. There's always a class of people trying to exploit the others, and in communism it's no different, right? It's just a continual war. And in the Kali Yuga there is no real Shudra even. Even the Shudras are not Shudra. Shudras are generally, in real Vedic society, they're religiously minded. They respect the Brahmanas. They serve God. They work. They're detached. They're happy in their work and simple living, right? There's nothing wrong with being a Shudra. It just means that you're working for somebody else, right? Vaishyas, they're also supposed to be very religious. They're supposed to donate a significant amount of their money to support brahmanas, to support students, to support renounced persons, to pay taxes to the king for the maintenance of upholding the varnashram system. The kings are supposed to take guidance from the brahmanas, right, in order to rule their kingdom by religious principles, all finished in the Kali Yuga. So, due to sinful propensities, living entities feel proud to identify with castes other than Brahmana, but there cannot be any fault in identifying oneself as a real Brahmana, if there was a real Brahmana. Not so many nowadays. Those who commit sinful activities are awarded severe miseries by Yamaraj, who awards punishment, particularly if, in spite of being born in a Brahmana family, by the influence of one's piety, and if, in spite of receiving the great opportunity of obtaining proper instruction, if one becomes bewildered and engages in committing various offenses, he can never escape the unlimited miseries in the abode of Yamaraj. Particularly if you're born into a high-class situation with advantages, with education, you're held to a higher standard, you're more responsible, right? It's like chanting the holy name. If you don't know what the 10 offenses are, if you don't know anything about Nam Tattva, any utterance of the holy name, what is it, Sanketyam Parihasam Va, Shodanam Helanam Eva Va, whether you mean something else, whether you're saying it jokingly, disrespectfully, angrily, all of these other ways. If you don't know Nam Tattva, you're getting some slight benefit by that chanting. You're getting some purification. But when you become conversant with Nam Tattva and then you abuse it, you're held to a higher standard. And that's Nam Aparad, offense. And that's very dangerous. So, Nityananda is talking now to Haridas. Still, pranante marila toma je javanapgane tahara o korila tumi bala mane mane. When you were beat practically to death by the Yavanas, you thought about even their welfare. Purport. The Qazis of Umbaya province beat Thakur Sri Haridas to the point of death. Nevertheless, without desiring any form of revenge, Thakur Haridas displayed tolerance and thought about their welfare. That can be found here in Adikanda, chapter 16. Jaritumi Shubhanu Sandana Karamane Tabe se Udarapaya Edui Jane Tomara Sankalpa Prabhu Nakare Anyata Apane Kahila Prabhu He Tatvakata. If you think about the welfare of these two, or let's read it this way, if you think about the welfare of these two, then they will certainly be delivered. The Lord never neglects to fulfill your desire, Haridas. Right? This truth was personally disclosed by the Lord. This was disclosed when Mahaprabhu did this 21 hours of revealing his various manifestations, his form of the Lord. And he called all of his devotees and praised them for their devotion and activities. And he spoke so lovingly to Haridas Thakur, saying that, and when you were beaten, I took the blows myself. I'm so attached to you. And he showed him his back, all full of scars, temporarily, to show Haridas that he was there with him. So, Saraswati Prabhupada quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Om Vishnu Pad Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda, a very long, from one of his songs. I'll read the translation. Without duplicity, I will approach a Vaishnava with straw between my teeth, with folded hands, and with a cloth hanging from my neck. I will cry and reveal to him my miserable condition. I will beg him for relief from the fire of material existence. After hearing about my miserable condition, the Vaishnava Thakur will profusely appeal to Krishna on my behalf. By his appeal, the most merciful Krishna will become compassionate towards this sinner. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing about how powerful is the wish of the Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas come here only for that purpose, to uplift the fallen souls, especially those who are calling for help, or calling for, out of a mood of remorse and suffering, please, oh my Lord. But more powerful than praying to God is praying to the Vaishnavas. Because by their desire, first of all, they're very merciful. And if they desire your upliftment and welfare, then Krishna will certainly fulfill their desire. So then Nityananda goes on to say, let the entire world see Lord Chaitanya's influence when he delivers these two. So this is his intent. Of course, he wants to uplift these two, but he wants to use them as an example to show that our Lord is so merciful that even these two, these most egregious, fallen, sinful persons, even they will be delivered by the mercy of our Lord in this Kali Yuga. Just as the Puranas sing about the deliverance of Ajamil, now let the three worlds directly see such pastimes. All right, because this is contemporary. This is only a little over 500 years ago. This was written, a lot of times nowadays when people are comparing religions, in order to establish the authenticity of their own religion, they cite that there is real history, their contemporary persons were writing. And in Christianity, they have some of that, right, about Lord Jesus Christ. Islam is a little bit more challenged in that way. They don't have the same kind of direct connection with the teachings of Muhammad and those who finally wrote it down, but they tried to establish it. Old Testament, it's harder to find that connection, but now with archaeology advancing like it is, many of the statements and histories that are contained in the Old Testament are being revealed in discoveries and historical records being uncovered in the dirt, right? But nothing compares with the Vedic revelations. And again, they're also being assisted by modern archaeology. The discovery of very ancient, 15,000-year-old big cities that they never knew existed. They're now discovering them. Sophisticated places with all the trappings of genuine Vedic culture. Modern historians, the Indologists that came to India in the early 1800s, German and British, with a Christian belief system, they couldn't acknowledge the antiquity of Vedic literature. So they put it in a modern context. At most 5,000 years, and less, a lot of it, and not from India itself, not indigenous, but brought in from elsewhere. Some Aryans came, although they could never figure out who those Aryans were. They don't exist anywhere else. So maybe the entire Aryan culture came to India, and they left no record of where they were before that. Just complete concoction. And the idea that it was older than what they considered the oldest, which was Egyptian, they couldn't believe that. And they attributed it all to mythology. But now they're finding all these ancient cities that are described in the Puranic literature. And along the Saraswati, which they discounted, but modern geological study shows there was a giant river, the Saraswati, going exactly where they said. But it dried up about 4,000 years ago. Only a little bit of it remains. But along that ancient riverbed, now they're finding archaeological sites of cities that were on that, which they had attributed to myth. So much is coming out now. And then also, all over the world, ancient, highly developed civilizations are being uncovered in Turkey, in Egypt, in South America. It's quite remarkable. So these stories, in this case the Puranic stories, Ajamil, now he's saying, now let the world see it in contemporary times. All the same mercy, the same power of that holy name, of the mercy of the Lord. Now the Lord has come again in the Kali Yuga to show. And the history of Mahaprabhu, the chronicles of Mahaprabhu written by so many people, eyewitnesses, right? This can't be denied. This can't be denied. It's a subject even in modern universities. It's a whole branch of study, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. They don't understand Mahaprabhu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that there are three ways people understand Mahaprabhu. Ordinary scholars think of him as a social and religious reformer, fighting against the caste system, this and that, because that's documented 500 years ago. Others, with a little deeper study, see him as a great devotee, because he certainly manifested and showed himself as a devotee and taught the legacy that was handed down through Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and others, coming through Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then those who are the most intelligent and most learned see him for who he is, as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahayanya, the incarnation of Krishna in the moods, combined with the moods and compassion of Srimati Radhika, right? So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls this the Gauranga Samaj. He says that anybody who appreciates Mahaprabhu in any way, we applaud them and accept them as members of the Gauranga Samaj. But there are different levels of understanding Mahaprabhu, right? So, just as the Puranas sing about the deliverance of Ajamil, now let the three worlds directly see such pastimes. This is Nityananda Prabhu's proclamation. Now, from this point on, because now Mahaprabhu is beginning his Sankirtan, his pastimes of deliverance. After this, he's going to take sannyas and he's going to go travel all around India, right? And then so many other things are going to take place. But this is the beginning. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, the word Tribhuvana, which is in the verse, refers to the 6 upper planetary systems, the 7 lower planetary systems, and the earth, 14 in all, right? The pastimes of Jagai and Madhai's deliverance at Sri Navadvip Dham in this material world is not simply a scriptural narration, like the topic concerning Ajamil that is recorded in the Puranas, such as Srimad Bhagavatam, nor is it a past incident of this ordinary world. Such activities are found even now in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. So what he had inaugurated then, showing the power of the holy name and the compassion and mercy of the Vaishnavas, it's being carried out to the present day. These same miraculous transformations are happening. And really, it's just beginning. It's just beginning. What our Srila Prabhupada did is going to be recorded in the annals of history as nothing short of miraculous. It is what Nityananda Prabhu was predicting was being energized and fulfilled in the first giant step by our Srila Prabhupada. So, Nityananda Tattva Haridas Sabala Jane, Paela Udara Dui, Jani Lena Mane. Haridas knew well the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. Therefore, he could understand that the two were already delivered. Purport. Since Thakur Haridas acted as Namacharya in this world, he knew perfectly well the truth about the original spiritual master of those who chant the holy names. While seeing the present situation, that Thakur Haridas could understand that Jagai and Madhai would certainly be delivered. The relationship between Haridas and Nityananda is very interesting. You can see it, the pastimes that they have together. They have a great friendship, and their pastimes are astonishing but also amusing, right? Some of the pastimes. But when you look at it a little deeper, Nityananda is the personification of Guru Tattva. Haridas Thakur is personification of the holy name, the teaching of the holy name. Of course, they're constant companions. Being sent together, Guru is taking the holy name to the world, right? So, Haridasa Prabhu Bale, Shuna Mahashai, Tomaraye Ichasehi Prabhu Nischai. Haridas Prabhu said, listen, O Mahashai, your desire is certainly the Lord's desire. And Saraswati Prabhupada reiterates, whatever you desire is fully approved by Sri Gaurasundar. Another important point. Seems obvious, but again, Guru doesn't have an independent desire. They're completely tadatmic with the desire of the Lord. That's what makes them Guru, right? Because they live only to fulfill the desire of Bhagavan, of God. This is their life and soul. They're united in love and purpose. They are the very manifestation of the mercy of the Lord. That's why they come. Amare bandao jena pashure bandao amare se tumi puna puna yeshikao. You deceive me, just as one deceives an animal. And in this way you repeatedly teach me. What does he mean by that? He's saying, oh, you're deceiving me. You know, animals are very easy to deceive. I'm like an animal compared to you. So, in his commentary, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, Haridas said, my appeal to Krishna would simply teach how to demand the respect of a Vaishnava and command the Supreme Lord. But I am like an animal, without discrimination between what is good and what is bad. If, according to your statement, I consider myself a Vaishnava and think that the most merciful Krishna will deliver two sinners by my request, then I am no better than an animal. Although I am an animal devoid of discrimination between good and bad, your act of concealing yourself from me is indicative of my animal nature. I am a living entity who has forgotten Krishna. Therefore, since you have a strong desire to engage me in the service of the Lord by reviving my constitutional position, I have many things to learn from your activities. So his humility is astonishing, and yet even though he is degrading his own qualification, by his very statements he's indicating his qualification. He's saying, in genuine humility, in your presence, I'm feeling like an animal, right? Because animal, in what sense? Animal has no discrimination, no wisdom. Doesn't know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. I can only follow your direction, right? And you've called me a Vaishnava. He praised, Nityananda praised Haridas. And you've said that by my request, these two sinners will be delivered. But really, I don't have any qualification to do such. You're concealing yourself. You're concealing your real identity, that all power is coming from you. If I think that it's because of me, then my animal nature is confirmed, right? I've forgotten Krishna, but it's by your power, your mercy, your strong desire to engage me that my constitutional position is being revived. I am at your feet learning. So these are the statements of the person that Mahaprabhu has called the Namacharya, the very personification of the power of the holy name and the teacher of the holy name. But in that glory, we also see manifest the greatest genuine humility, right? Which is the subject. In fact, Lord Brahma had specifically prayed to the Lord after this Brahma Vimohana Leela, where he had stolen the cowherd boys and the calves, right? In order to see more pastimes of Krishna, to test his mystic power. This was initiated by Jogamaya, but still it's spoken of as if an offense for teaching. And he genuinely felt that he'd committed offense by doing so. And in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, he makes beautiful, beautiful prayers to the Lord, revealing his genuine power, all of his qualities, his mercy, so astonishing. But he wasn't satisfied with that, and he was feeling remorse. So he went to Antardweep and began to do austerities, because he knew that the Lord was going to appear in the Kali Yuga as Lord Chaitanya. And he wanted that mercy. So he did austerities for a long time, and Lord Chaitanya appeared before him. Right? And when he did, he said, "What do you want?" He said, "Oh, because of my post as Lord Brahma, I'm so proud, right? And I get so carried away by my talent, intelligence, You've given me all this in order to allow me to perform this miracle of creation of this material universe, but by that I've become very proud. And I committed offense because of that. I want to take birth in your pastimes as the, avatar of the Kali Yuga to distribute the holy name and uplift even the most fallen, right? I want to take part in that and serve you in that way, but I don't want a high post. I want to be born in the most lowly position. and I want to serve you. And at the same time, he also had prayed to Prahlad Maharaj. Oh, Prahlad Maharaj, your nishta towards the Lord under even the most trying circumstances, and your humility and utter dependence, I want that. I want to be like you. I pray for your mercy. So he was given the benediction that he would take birth as Haridas Thakur along with Prahlad Maharaj. They're both Haridas Thakur. This is very difficult for us to understand. How can two people be in the same body? But how does one person exist in the body? In the conditioned state, we exist in this body. We're covered by false ego, and our activities are controlled by the three modes of material nature. A liberated soul is immersed in the river of Ladini Shakti, Samvit Shakti, right? They exist by the mercy of Sandini Shakti. But Samvit means, who am I? What is my relation with the Lord? And Sandini and Ladini is that propensity to give pleasure to the Lord and serve and bring happiness to the Lord and the Lord's devotees. It's the pleasure potency, right? So, by the mercy of the Lord, both personalities were given that body with that same pastime. So they're both experiencing it simultaneously. They're both under the direction of the Lord, immersed in that same Ladini Shakti, with the same self-conception from Samvit Shakti. So they're both living that pastime simultaneously. They have no false ego to compete with one another. They're both living as Haridas Thakur. And Lord Brahma got that benediction. So Haridas is very, very humble. We hear more about his identity as Lord Brahma. That was spoken earlier in the purports of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. The personification of the creator of the universe and the teacher of the holy name. Why were they sent together? Right? Namacharya, he called Namacharya the creator of the universe and Nityananda as the supreme personality of Godhead coming together for this pastime. So, by the mercy of the Lord, he's born into that condition where he does have that humility. And therefore, his relationship with both Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya is very close. Very close. In Krishna Lila, Krishna was a little dismissive of Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma came and offered obeisance and dandavats after that pastime, realizing he committed offense, Krishna barely looked at him, right? He was just playing. But then he granted him this darshan and allowed him to make the prayers. But when he took birth as Haridas, after having received the benediction as Lord Chaitanya, then he entered into a very amazing relationship with Mahaprabhu. And you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita at the end, in Ajalila, where he leaves his body. He was very old, and he wanted to leave his body before the Lord's pastimes ended, in the presence of the Lord, gazing on him. And Mahaprabhu gave him that benediction. And when he left his body, Mahaprabhu glorified him and danced with his body in his arms for hours, chanting the holy name. And then with his own hands, dug the samadhi in the sands of Jagannath Puri. Right? So, remarkable. And that's for us as well, that we need the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, the empowerment of Haridas Thakur to chant the holy name, and then by them we get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, and by that we can enter into Krishna Lila. Right? So this is a wonderful pastime, and it's being shown. You think you're not qualified? Well, look at these two and realize how merciful the Lord is by sending his own representatives, his guru, the gurus. So, Nityananda smiled and embraced Haridas. He then softly spoke as follows. Prabhurajay agyalahi amara vedai taha kahi ehi dui madhya peratani. Let us go and inform these two drunkards of the Lord's order that we are carrying around. So purport. Quote, since Jagai and Madhai are fully intoxicated by wine, they are not eager to hear topics about worldly morality or welfare. Still, in order to follow the most merciful Gaurasundar's order, we have accepted the responsibility of propagating the holy names to the general mass of people, including the sinful. Sinful people cannot even understand topics of worldly welfare. Therefore, to describe to them topics about the kingdom beyond this material nature often appears irrelevant. But actually, sinful people have a special qualification and right to receive these topics. What? What special qualification and right? Sabare bhajite Krishna prabhupada adesh tara madhye atishaya prapire vishesh. The Lord's order is for everyone to worship Krishna, but this is especially meant for the most sinful. So, we should take heart in that instruction. Sometimes when you look at the world, you go, oh my God, how is it possible? I mean, the Kali Yuga, it is so bad. The older I get, and having a little bit more acquaintance with the principles and practice and beauty of bhakti, your eyes get more and more open to how degraded this world actually is. And you think, how is it possible that anything will be accomplished? But the plan of the Lord and the recognition of everyone is that the Kali Yuga is blessed. It is the most degraded, but because of that, Kaler dosha didhe rajan asti heko mahadguna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param vajet. The age of Kali is so full of fault, unimaginable fault. But the beautiful thing is that simply by this chanting of the holy name, anyone and everyone can be delivered. So the Lord's order is for everyone to worship Krishna. But this is especially meant for the most sinful. Bali bara bara matra amadon hankara. Bali lena laya jabe sehi bharatanra. Our responsibility is to simply repeat the Lord's order. If people do not follow, that is their responsibility. Listen to that one. Next time that you have a problem with guru or, some guru bai, you're receiving some order, right, from, Anugatya, they're simply, our responsibility is to simply repeat the Lord's order. If people do not follow, that is their responsibility, right? We can make up all kinds of excuses we want for why not to follow. That's on us. The order, very simple, very clear, right? Saraswati Prabhupada says, Sri Mahaprabhu's order to Srila Nityananda and Srila Haridas was to request everyone to worship Krishna. Right? If by the will of the Lord the audience does not listen to their humble presentation and thus invites inauspiciousness on themselves, then Mahaprabhu, the order giver, takes part in the result. That's a very interesting, let's look at that verse again. So there's two kinds of things. If we don't do it, that's on us. But Mahaprabhu is saying something special, or Nityananda about Mahaprabhu. Our responsibility is to simply repeat the Lord's order. If people do not follow, that is his responsibility. Right? So the Lord, he knows the people of Kali Yuga are stubborn. Right? But he's still given the order. And if you don't take part, he will bear that himself. Right? Our job is to just go out and try. Right? And that means to the public, but also in our own little communities, right? We try as much as possible. Hear the order, do the order, right? Then Nityananda and Haridas went to inform the two of the Lord's order. Saintly people prohibit him, saying, don't go near them. If they catch you, you will lose your lives. Okay, so here we are. We kept inching closer and closer to the first meeting with Jagai and Madhai. Every day it seems like, okay, now it's going to happen, right? But now they're really saying it. It's like, sort of like on the edge of the cliff, these people that jump into the water from big depths. There they are, you're going to make the jump, you're not going to make the jump. They're right there now, ready to go. And people are saying, don't do it, don't do it. But they have so much faith in the order of the Lord that they're going to do it. And, all right, they're not qualified. Oh, they're sinful. Anything may happen. Whatever happens, the Lord, He's taking responsibility for that. We don't have to fear, right? Just do your best. Do your best. So, all right. So, we'll stop here and think about our prominent gurus, those who we're familiar with. Our Srila Prabhupada, the risks he took, the effort he made, our Srila Gurudev, these personalities, so many disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, in old age, going everywhere, preaching fearlessly against all obstacles, happily, with full faith. That's what we want too. That's what we want. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sri Guru Rupanuga Guru Parampara ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol.